I'm Lawrence Francis, host of Interpreting Wine, welcoming you to the Mosaic of Wine Series 2. Today's guest, Raimonds Tomsons, hailing from Latvia, is the reigning best sommelier of the world and former best sommelier of Europe. Our conversation comes at a time when the reigning best sommelier of Europe is from another Baltic country, Estonia. So, what is happening in the three Baltic countries, Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia, to underpin the success? Because none of these countries are particularly renowned for their winemaking, hospitality or gastronomy. So how did this seeming dichotomy come about? We unpack the specifics by exploring the Baltic sommelier community, via the themes of collaboration and competition in the region. Raimonds was already Latvian and Baltic champion several times before stepping onto the European and global stage. We also explore personal qualities on a cultural regional level. Indeed, Raimonds was brought up when Latvia was still a part of the Soviet Union. And we close by focusing on Raimonds' biggest dream for the Baltic region. One which has a massive potential to change the European and global hospitality landscape and generate substantial economic value across the Baltics. Enjoy. Hi again, Raimonds. Welcome to Interpreting Wine. It's great to have you on. And I'm really excited to get into your story. So I'd love to get started with what I call the people section. So I'd love you to give me and to give the listener a fairly high-level introduction to your story, but then also bringing in to that story who might be some of the people who've influenced and helped you along that journey.
Well, hello, Lawrence, and thank you for having me here. And then thank you for giving the possibility to share a little bit about my story, about my journey. So probably I should start with that I grew up in Soviet Union as a small child. And having said that, I only have the most positive memories from my childhood. So I was born in 1980. Latvia became independent in 1991. So 11 years I experienced, let's say, what it means to be a kid in a Soviet Union country. Mm-hmm. And of course, also, when we became independent, still we had huge influence, and it took some time that our country, changed politically and culturally and so on and so forth. But basically, I think it's important to mention that because our country, and of course me as well, I don't have any kind of background about wine. My first sip of wine was a wine called Monastirskaya Izba. It was, I think, 1 liter bottle. We drank it behind the school. It was tart, acid, plain, probably quite disgusting. But that was my first memory. I should be around 16 years of age. But before that, I had never kind of a plan or ambition, to work in hospitality or becoming a sommelier. But I had a wonderful childhood. And what I remember, actually, I really loved to prepare my food, my lunch, my dinner. Even when I was quite small, 8, 9, 10 years of age. And the food was simple, but it was very good produced. At least to my memory, simple potatoes, pasta, cheese, cottage cheese, eggs, very simple. But I really loved the flavors, and I really always took the time to enjoy the food. So there must have been something about the flavor, the enjoyment, even though it was very simple food in a very simple also conditions and outset. But then, my original plan was to go and study foreign languages because I learned German from TV. I learned English during secondary school. And after finishing secondary school, I went to a university. I didn't qualify. And actually, I was already kind of ready to go and to do the military service, which was mandatory at that time. If you did not go study like in a university, then you had to go to do the military service. And then someone told me, I think my mom or some friends of mine told me that in Riga, because I'm not originally from Riga, I lived like 2 hours drive from Riga in a small seaside village, which is Ruoja, almost like Rioja.
Roja, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And someone told me like there's a professional school where you can learn, the craft of being a waiter and bartender. So I thought to myself, I have my languages. I like to communicate with people. And someone told me, you can work in a restaurant. Maybe after a year, you can continue to study and you can have a wonderful kind of teenage study life. So I went, and apparently I really kind of fell in love, about hospitality. After the first year, that was 1999, went to do like training during summer in the best restaurant in Latvia, and potentially in Baltics, which is Vincent's. And after the first summer, actually, they offered me to stay as a waiter, which I did. And I stayed there till 2020. So more than 20 years I worked at this restaurant. And I think the restaurant specifically and the chef is very important to mention in our conversation, because if I would not end up in this restaurant, if I would not meet this chef, which was a huge personality, he had huge ambitions. He was very experienced. He actually brought the Western fine cuisine to Latvia. So he was a mentor, not only for me, but for many chefs, young chefs and young members of the hospitality, because this restaurant was, the most important restaurant. He brought a lot of kind of traditional recipes and cuisine to Latvia. And he was like my second father. He taught me not only things about cooking, hospitality, but also, some ethics of life and work, discipline, motivation. And he always pushed me, you need to continue to study. So thanks to him, I went to study WSET Diploma in Austria for almost 3 years. He financed actually these studies, which is also very important. He encouraged me to take part in sommelier competitions. So I started to compete in 2000. I think my first competition was in 2005. And apparently I fell in love with competitions because I really loved to compete. And I remember when I was a small boy back in Ruoja, we did a lot of sports, and we had also a very, very strict teacher. So he trained us in basketball, floorball, football, and we had a very good discipline as well. So I think that helped also to, let's say, accomplish some of my goals in my life, having this discipline and goal orientation. I think it's very important. And additionally, this chef as well. So that was very important. And also I was able to travel with this chef. His name is Martins. And I was able to travel with him. We did like plenty of TV shows about food, and not only food, also about wine. He took me together with him, to some of the best restaurants of Europe, like El Bulli, Osteria La Francescana, Noma. He was a very good friend with several chefs. Like I remember Heston Blumenthal came to Latvia, and he did a TV show with him. He was a very good friend with René Redzepi of Noma. So he kind of managed to bring us in and to do internship in Noma for a couple of weeks, which was, rather short, but actually a very important time as well. I mean, in 2 weeks, you can learn a lot if you're dedicated. So plenty of those things. So that gave me perspective as well as a boy coming from a post-Soviet Union country. Yeah. So that's a short story.
Yeah. And again, we're, as I like to say, right up there in the drone, and we're looking out over the story here, and there's literally 100 different kind of directions that I could kind of take us in. But I think that, thinking about, this conversation and also, linking back, I think, to previous conversation that I had with Mick Parr from Estonia, I do as well. I do want to, I think, kind of in a little way, explore this idea of the Baltics, because again, I think it is a bit of a term that's sort of, thrown around and used to encapsulate those at least 3 countries there. But I think, you've already there, I think, brought out a couple of interesting differentials in terms of potentially the military service, the exact date that you got independence, and maybe some clues around the sort of, I guess, cultural kind of direction. So I'd love to just invite you to explore, again, I think those similarities and differences between the Baltic countries, which I think will form a really useful basis for the conversation that we have following on.
Sure. So I think all 3 countries became independent more or less at the same time. And I think also one of the reasons, or there's several reasons why actually I think the Baltics are quite successful in hospitality and in particular, as the results show, in sommelier. So it's personal, like, the right persons in the right time, coming, from relatively harsh kind of conditions and being part of Soviet Union. So, and there is even the saying, harsh times create, very strong people. And if you're living in comfort, in economically wealthy and everything is available, you as a person maybe, you used to discomfort, and maybe when you have to challenge some, more difficult situations, it will be definitely more difficult. So I think it's a combination of personalities, goal orientated, very focused on the goal, discipline, also I think, dreaming, accomplishing a goal, which I believe is also very important. Dreaming, and then, of course, you need to continue with the plan and hardship as well. But then also, our countries are relatively small. So we are not competing, we are collaborating. The sommelier community is really tight, friendly. Everybody knows each other. So that is very important because, as three small countries, if we would act independently, I don't know if the results would be the same. We don't know, maybe. But I'm quite sure that because we had this possibility to collaborate, to do many things together, to support each other, the results came maybe more in a more short term. Also, I've noticed that maybe in very traditional winemaking countries, France, maybe Spain, Italy, they're big countries. So first, you are linked to great culture and history. You tend to believe that maybe your country is producing some of the best wines, which is absolutely fine. But and also you don't have the access of global wine scene. Or I will correct myself. It's not that easy, to get access to the broad kind of global wine culture and wine samples and wine bottles. So our country, where we didn't have any kind of culture. So everything is new. Everybody is relatively open-minded. The market is full of different wines from Europe, outside Europe. So the access to wine is relatively more easier. And our mindset is more open-minded. We are not linked to Champagne, Burgundy, Bordeaux, Tuscany, Piedmont, which have centuries-long history. So that is also, I think, very important. And to be successful in competitions, you need to gain experience and you need to gather experience. And this could only be done being in the battlefield. So being actually taking part in different competitions in our countries. So once a year, we have the national competition. We are always inviting Estonian friends, Lithuanian friends. They are doing the same. So everyone is exchanging, gathering experience. Once per year, we are very happy to have Tallinn Baltic Grand Prix, so the best sommelier of Baltics. So 3 best sommeliers from each country are competing. And every year, the hosting country is changing. Plus, Estonians, Latvians now have the beer competition. Lithuania is organizing a wonderful wine and dessert competition. So, and even the bartender community and sommelier community, they're really tightly connected. So everyone is like in good relationship, supporting, training each other. So I think this is very important, and this is the kind of short snapshot of our countries being quite successful in sommelier competitions, which is, of course, very, very, very great.
Yeah, it's the results speak for themselves. I think that's one thing. That's the data. The data doesn't lie. I just think it's fascinating. I'm more and more now when I speak to people, and it's kind of where we'll end up. A little clue. I love to talk about the purpose, and the long-term goal and where things are going. And actually, we've already got that strong data that you're on the right tracks, collectively, that you're having those successes. And then I just think it's really fascinating to then reverse engineer that and say, okay, what's it all about? Come back as you've done there, unpack all of that. And what may initially seem like barriers to entry, what might seem like, things that are going to be challenging or things that just don't even mean you get off the starting block, so to say, you've positioned them as potential advantages. And I think for me, it's just exciting because, again, I think when we look at the global flow of information now, there's no reason why that sort of interest that you've spoken about there and that kind of community kind of shouldn't arise anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm also been thinking, of course, the very beginning was not easy for myself, because I kind of was the first sommelier from the Baltic countries which managed to qualify for the semifinals in 2016 in Mendoza, which was already a great success. And it was also, I think, the turning point. The turning point that I believe I heard plenty of, my colleagues sommeliers from other small countries. Because before 2016, and many have said that, no one really realized or even believed that a sommelier from maybe outside these classic great wine countries, or as the Scandinavians have proven, coming from countries which have a very healthy economic situation, hence everybody's drinking, fine wines, good wines, and the market is developing also in that direction. But apart from that, no one before had been able to qualify for semifinals. So that opened the door for dreams and plans and trust from other small countries. And I heard that, hey, you proved that actually it's possible. Because there were a lot of kind of theories, that only specific country candidates are allowed to enter semifinals. I always believe that's not true. That can't be true, And of course, the beginning was not easy. I also had some colleagues who were just joking, it's not possible, relax, don't push yourself or something similar. But I always was convinced that there is a possibility. And actually, the reason for that was I clearly remember 2010, I watched the final of Best Sommelier of the World in Santiago in Chile, where Gerard Basset won gracefully. And the final, which I saw, was very similar to what we have been doing in Baltics already for 4 years. So I knew that, okay, the final is pretty similar, but the $1 million question was how to get through the quarterfinal and semifinal and to get till that final. And this was the most challenging. But in 2016, I managed and I proved. And then the next years were much more easier to accomplish and to believe in myself that this plan works, this preparation works. So you need just to push yourself further. So these were the main kind of turning points and situations when I realized that this is possible. But of course, it's not easy. There are plenty of obstacles and challenges which you need to overcome. But I think the most important is to believe in yourself, like as a person, as a sommelier, that this is possible, to have a proper plan and consistency, discipline, and to be patient as well, which nowadays is a quality sometimes I miss in young people, patience, because there are some things in the wine, learning about wine, you can't overcome time and experience. And the wine world is just so broad. You can't learn, everything. You need time. And of course, time is also one of the most complicated things to manage if you have family, work, personal hobbies, and okay, you have your dream, you have your plan, you have your ambitions, but then you need to bring those in place and in action. And this was for me the most difficult task to realize and to understand that, you have to do that, because the preparation in my case is according to a strict plan more than a year. So for more than a year, you need to wake up, in my case, very early to study, to have that consistency and to overcome these kind of situations when you want to rest or when you don't want to study, when you want to do other maybe more pleasant things in your life. So, and to do that, it's not enough only with you. You need the right people surrounding you. In my case, it was my family, my wife, some of my very close friends who also helped me to train and to organize all those training sessions. I couldn't do it on my own. Yes, the most important is to have you as a personality with special characteristics and qualities to accomplish all these things. But then you need support from other people. Yeah.
I love it. And I've got to say, this is a really, I'm loving this story because it perfectly goes through the structure that I use for every single interview. We've spoken about people, we've spoken about culture, we've spoken about the expertise, and you brought us there onto challenge. And I just think that that story, it makes sense. It hangs. It kind of follows. And I think where I'd in a sense, I guess challenge you a little bit now. Because I think you come across as somebody who's very modest and as well as being very accomplished. I'd actually love to kind of flip the tables on you a little bit, because you've brought in there a couple of key mentors and people that you look up to. So I'd actually love to get some 2025 right up to date insight into your role as a mentor, because I'm imagining that based on everything you just described there, the location, the size of the community, your own current position as having won the best sommelier of the world. What is it like for you now on the other side? And what are some of the specifics that I guess you're seeing people coming from you? You've hinted there when you spoke about patience. I guess that might have been some of those sort of conversations. Yeah, take us inside that. What are you seeing on the ground in terms of, I guess, the next batch of people coming through? What are the types of conversations that you're having, and what do you see as your role and the role of your kind of comrades and fellow sommeliers in bringing through that next generation?
So I love that question because I think it's a must, and it's a very important, even essential part when you have accomplished something, like in my case. So now it's and for me it's very important to give back to the industry of sommelierie, and wherever I can, I'm ready to inspire and motivate. And I have been told that actually I'm quite good at that, even though I hate to kind of say something positive about myself. So, I even have created a special kind of presentation about my journey, and basically, maybe a bit more in detail what we've been going through, how I started, what were the turning points, the lessons, the challenges, and all these kind of things. And I think when you become the best sommelier of Europe or world, I think it's very important to, first of all, it's a big responsibility, because a lot of young sommeliers will take you as your idol or example or mentor. So it's very important that you stay with both feet on the ground. I think it's essential to stay humble, and it's not always easy to do, because with accomplishing something, we tend to think that we are maybe serious and famous, but we need to stay with both feet on the ground. I think it's very important. And to be accessible, this is the word which I was looking for other people, trying to motivate them. And I just came back from Greece, where we had wonderful 2 days master classes about my journey, practical, theoretical. And, I was very, very, very excited to see young people asking questions, and I hope I could inspire them and maybe change some of the way of thinking. So, and also I think now I'm very excited to be part of the International Sommelier Association of the Technical Committee. So on the other side, organizing these competitions, which is a way how to give back also to this international organization, which actually creates this wonderful platform of these competitions, which is, of course, a way how to prove to yourself and to the wine world that you can be a very good sommelier. And of course, it can also influence your career and the way how you can develop your business opportunities, because if you manage to win, it gives also a lot of possibilities to you. So you need to find a balance, of course, to take the advantage for you, for your family, but also it's very important, to give back, to motivate, to inspire. I love to travel. Wherever I've been asked to give like a presentation about my journey, even I've been asked of some different companies, not linked to wine, to give like an inspirational story, how to motivate yourself, how to be goal orientated. What kind of qualities do you need? What are the challenges? So, and this you can link with other professions as well. And I love to do that. I love to do that because I can see that, people change their kind of mindset. They're coming, they're saying, that this was wonderful, that they've been inspired and so on. So, just in short, it's very important to bring back to the industry.
And to kind of press you a little bit on maybe some of those specifics, because might you, of course, not to sort of out anybody or to give away any confidences, but it sounded as though there were some themes there around patience, which again I think if some of my listeners can relate to, and if you can maybe unpack a little bit, I think it may well be quite useful and helpful for somebody who's listening in.
So basically what I always say, as I said, so to be successful, you need to have some personal characteristics, because I know a lot of great sommeliers, which maybe for them is fine to work in one company or one restaurant to take care of their guests, but they necessarily do not want to compete, because to compete on a big stage in front of the large audience, you need to have specific qualities and you need to really train for that. And some people just don't comfortable about that, which is totally fine. So having said that, it means the world is full of great sommeliers who are not taking part in competitions. But basically, I always say, like, it starts with a dream, and dreaming is good. I also remember myself, like, I imagined myself how it would be to win one or the other trophy or competition, what would be the feeling? So this is good. It gives you emotions. And then, of course, dreaming is good, but then you need to have a plan. You need to have a specific goal, because a dream without a goal will stay a dream. So you need to have a specific goal. And I always say a goal can be maybe a big goal, but in between you can set smaller goals. So for me, as an example, I always said when I decided I need to qualify for the semifinal. So my goal was not necessarily to win, but to qualify for the semifinal. And as we know, from the semifinal, the game is on. Everyone, the more pressure is there. Everyone is a bit nervous, and you can outcompete maybe some of the more experienced guys who might have more pressure. So to set a goal is very important. It can be a small goal, it can be a bigger goal. Then you need a plan. Plan is essential. Without a plan, I always say, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. This was said by Benjamin Franklin. Simple as that. So you need to spend time on building a plan. It can be an Excel spreadsheet, like in my case, week by week. What am I going to do? How much hours I'm going to dedicate? And it's not only about planning what to do. The first thing what needs to be done is to plan how many hours per week you can dedicate to studying. Like, be very honest, be very open-minded to yourself. And then you can set, according how much hours you can dedicate, you can set in long term, how long plan are you going to need? Because the amount of information you need to go through and you need to study and remember is enormous. And then you have your plan, then discipline and consistency is the bridge between your dream goal, between your dream, and your goal. Yeah. So you need consistency and discipline. And this is what I said was the most complicated: to wake up very early in the morning, to go and study, even though you don't feel motivated, then you need someone to motivate you. So consistency and discipline. And then coming now to your question about patience, then I think wine is one of the professions where you can't only deal with being lucky. You need hardship. You need to work hard, like ease is a bigger threat to fail than hardship. And people need to understand that. And with wine, the only way is hardship, to study. Hardship leads to progress. Hardship leads to you as a better professional. And now I'm saying like kind of things which everyone knows. But even though when in my presentations, I say these things, even like big CEOs, like, okay, yes, it's good that someone actually, places these simple things and reminds us, because sometimes, as I said, especially the young people, when we live in a world where information is so easy to access with all the AI and internet and platforms and apps, but still with wine, if you are in front of judge or guest in a restaurant or wine shop, and if you have a specific question asked, of course you can Google, but in a sommelier competition, you can't Google. You just need to know it or you don't know it. So hardship is essential. And then what I said, be patient, because in my case, so I started in 2010. In 2016, after 6 years, I managed to qualify for semifinal. And then the results started to come. 2017, I won the Best Sommelier of Europe. 2019, the Best Sommelier of the World. Of course, my ambition was to win. I didn't. I learned a very difficult lecture, which was, I think, necessarily for me. I realized some of the weaknesses, but I continued, So to be patient, to believe in yourself, to stay motivated, it's very, very, very important, very essential. And you need the right people to support you.
I love it. There's, an absolute ton there to unpack. And actually, interestingly, a few analogies there that actually really resonate with the types of conversations that I'm having. And I just think that, I think time there, discipline, consistency, and almost in a sense that kind of, getting your head down, getting into the details, but being able to look up and have that, whatever you want to call it, North Star dream, and recognize where you are now. So because I always love that analogy, that bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. It's like, exactly. That's it. It's like, okay, if you're setting a big goal, then the bridge has got to be long. And guess what? The bridge has got to remain strong. And most bridges, I think, though, most anything, even if something big, is just built one step at a time, whatever it is, one foot in front of the other, just kind of keep going. So it's the bigger your goals, the longer it's going to take.
Yes, and just one very important detail, what helped me to stay motivated. You can compare like doing some sports or going to gym. And the reason why some people they go maybe the first couple of weeks to gym, they don't see results. And, they just decide not to go. And the other version is like they go to the gym, they take too heavy weights, they injure themselves and they quit. So with wine is similar. I mean, as I said, studying about wine, it just needs time, and you can study all your life. But what was very important for me and which was very motivating, that after a few months, you actually noticed that your shape about wine and theory and tasting abilities is becoming better. And you actually, wow, I actually know this. Wow, I actually know all the main regions and subregions of, I don't know, Australia or China. Wow, I feel more confident because knowledge gives confidence. Yeah. And then if you see yourself as a professional, as a sommelier, gaining knowledge, expertise, confidence, this is a feeling I always wish everybody to go through and to feel. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And it's like testosterone. It gives you boost. It gives you energy. Suddenly it's very easy to wake up because, hey, today I'm going to learn more subregions or more things about viticulture or vinification. So if you do that, you feel the results. And then the right mindset, you notice that you're becoming a better profession, and you need to kind of remember, even though you will not be maybe successful in this next competition, you will be a better professional. And
you're making progress.
You will make progress, yeah. And this is very, very important.
It reminds me of something I even just this morning I saw on my Instagram feed. Because I search out and I seek out people from lots of different industries on Instagram. I don't only kind of follow wine people. On my personal account, I make a point of trying to follow a bunch of people. And there was a guy there who's a fitness coach. So he works remotely with people. And he made a post about when all of his clients, they, measure the scales and the data and, I guess fat percentage and whatever else it is on their bridge, on their journey from where they are to where they're going. But then he also always, I guess, makes them take a picture of themselves, And he's like, this is for accountability, and this isn't to put online. This isn't to put on Instagram or to show off to anyone or put on YouTube. It's like documenting the journey for yourself. So you're getting that feedback. You can see yourself in the mirror today, and then you can look at the pictures from a month ago and 2 months ago, and that you're making that progress. And I'm curious, I guess, does that sounds as though that potentially resonates with that part of the journey. But is there something equivalent for sommeliers outside of competitions? Because as you say, the competition may not give you that feedback yet. You may need some incremental feedback. What might that be?
I think, yeah. So depends in which direction you go as a sommelier. So if you're aiming for a certain certification, of course, passing is a clear kind of confirmation about your progress, right? But for me, always, the best recognition was a recognition from a guest. When he went away from a restaurant or from a wine shop, with words like, we really did have a great time. And if I can help, a wine lover to discover a new wine or a new region, or I can help him to overcome maybe a stereotype. It's a great benefit for myself as a professional because I did something right. And I think this is absolutely essential, being recognized either by a certification system or by a competition or by our guests or clients.
Yeah.
So this gives you also a lot of motivation. And speaking about that snapshot, this is something similar you told, because then you can see, really that I'm gaining confidence. I'm becoming better in communicating with people to transmit my kind of theoretical knowledge into simple words, which will help a wine lover to learn about wine or to discover wine. And what I also just wanted to add to everything what I said already, don't do that mistake. Don't put unnecessarily a pressure on yourself. So if you decide to have a goal and to do things for yourself, keep it for yourself. Now with social media, I never posted like, hey, this is what I'm doing, 3 months to go, until competition. If I did something, I shared with my closest, friends and family. But if you put something on social media, then you are linked to that, and then you have a bigger responsibility, and a lot of people will know that. I think this is a pressure which you don't need. And sometimes I see, yes, I understand the kind of value of that, but just do your thing and recognition will come. Yeah, and you will have less pressure. This is, I think, also in the modern world very important. And it's not only me saying that. I think several kind of important people who accomplished something, like sportsmen, and not only they said this, just do your thing, just do, and people will. It's a matter of time. People will realize that and recognize that.
I love it. Really, really great. I've so enjoyed the conversation today, Raimonds. And really, I guess to kind of package up the kind of point where we are now, and what I'd love to do with you is to talk about, I guess, the next bridge, because so much of what you've spoken about there, and I think so much of the perspective that you've shared there has really been helping others who are looking up to you and are maybe aspiring to reach the place that you rightfully hold now. What does the next bridge look like for you now? Where you've gotten to that level. What is that for you? What kind of comes up when I ask about that?
So there are several bridges. Some of the bridges I can name precisely. Some of the bridges I will keep for myself. So one bridge is really to be. It's not a challenge, but it's a certain way of goal as well. So to be, in simple words, to be a good example of a sommelier for other young sommeliers who want to study, who want to push themselves, and who want to reach goals. So to be a great example with great responsibility, to inspire, to motivate through many channels, what we discussed. Second, as I said, I joined the technical committee, so I really want to continue to be part of this organization and to be part of, the long-term journey to make this association sustainable, to help to unite the global world of sommelier, to make the next competitions even better, and to make them to be part of this group of people who will aim and make International Sommelier Association as the most important platform for every sommelier, for education, for community, for competitions. Like, this is very important. And this is, again, one bridge or one way how to give back to young sommeliers, to my colleagues and peers, and how to work together. And then another bridge is, as I said, it gave me a lot of possibilities to travel, to do collaborations, partnerships. So I really want to develop the business side of me and to be successful in that direction as well, because that's also important for the overall sustainability, not only for myself, but if I will be successful, I will have more time to do side things a part of my business. Yeah, that's very important. That's also part of sustainability. And then there is another bridge, which I will not, tell you now on camera. But I want to continue to study. And there are several ways how to do that. And I just really need to understand, because I have quite a huge family, which is also a great responsibility. And I am quite busy at the moment. And of course, if you want to study, you need to dedicate time. So I'm considering to continue maybe a more serious way of study, but we'll see how it will develop and if I will be able to do that. But I'm studying every day, and I'm a person who, if I don't know something, it pisses me off greatly. But then I try to push myself down. No, it's okay, because the wine world is so broad. You can't know everything. But, and these situations, no, maybe I need to study more and maybe I need to continue to study according to a plan, maybe according to a specific certification. So we'll see. We'll see what will happen. And these are the main kind of things I want to focus at the moment. Got you.
And I love this conversation. And I think this is the right time to ask it then, because I think you've spoken about almost, those bridges or those different rungs, almost those different steps. Is there a big dream for you, looking maybe further off into the future, where you think, okay, this is the change that actually, that's the change that all of those different bridges and all that effort that you've spoken about there and all of that, input and hardship in a sense is working towards, that there's a big dream, a big goal that captures everything.
Yeah. Okay, there is one kind of big dream which is very global, which is linked to what I said already about the International Sommelier Association. But I hope that with Mai and Mix and also Martinas and hopefully other Baltic sommelier and the success, the whole hospitality industry of Baltics will be able to develop in the long term. And that will also, it's very important for the whole economical situation because it's linked to tourism. Of course, we depend on the actual geopolitical situation. But apart from that, I hope with this success, our governments will understand that, hey, we have great hospitality personalities, people. We need to support the industries, and that hopefully will give sustainability in long term for the hospitality industry in Baltics and through the International Sommelier Association in the world. And just to conclude, I mean, my personal biggest goal and hope that when the children will grow up, during weekends and maybe Christmas and Easter, they will love to come and visit us, because that will be a proof that maybe we have done something right. So, of course, to make the sommelier world better. And hopefully our children will take the benefits from that. Not necessarily, they don't need to go in the same path, but hopefully I will be also a great example for them to accomplish and to overcome maybe the obstacles and challenges in their journey. So not to push them, but to just be there in the right moment. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Again, every conversation is completely different. And, I've absolutely loved speaking with you today. And really, in closing, I'd love for you just to share with the listeners, what might be one or two coordinates or upcoming events or calls to action. How do we kind of continue the journey and, join you in our journey, because you've got us all so fired up now.
Yeah, so the journey continues, and there are a lot of things ahead. So I'm heading to Decanter in a couple of weeks. I will visit few wine regions, and if you want to follow all that, you can of course follow me on Instagram, where I am a little bit more active. And of course, if you're interested, inviting me to give maybe one or the other, let's say, masterclass or maybe an inspiration talk or anything else linked to wine, or, motivating, sharing my passion, my expertise, you can visit my website as well, where you will find all the contacts, or via Instagram. The website is my name and surname, simple as that. And you can follow what I've been doing. What are the maybe focus partnerships and collaborations and services I propose? And as I said, I'm very open-minded and exciting if I can help somebody or some company or anybody, with my experience and me as a personality.
A huge thanks to today's guest, Raimonds Tomsons. So many reflections, insights and takeaways on his personal successes and those of his Baltic neighbours. I particularly liked ease is a bigger threat than hardship. Success takes time, discipline and consistency. And hard work without a goal isn't sustainable. So I was super happy to discover Raymond's bigger dream of developing Baltic hospitality in a long-term and sustainable way. And the value of this goal for the Baltic sommelier community, regional tourism, and the economy is immense. What is the value of greater name recognition for the Baltics? Of, say, a 5 or 10% uplift in people considering visiting or doing business there? This could have a huge positive impact on the region, and I'd love to offer my support. Because I believe the size of the canvas has to match the size of the story that you're telling. And in this case, it also has to match the size of the ambition. And I believe the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be is made out of attention. Do see below for the link to Raymond's Instagram handle, where you can follow along his journey. And next time on the podcast, we close out the Mosaic of Wine Series 2 in episode 592. So make sure you're subscribed to be alerted when that episode goes live. See you then.